YouTubers. This is Joey with Salty Flag TV. Driving in the Vette today, and this is going to be a little bit different than the other videos. I'm going to talk about my experience with my 2003 C5 Corvette Anniversary Edition convertible. They're great cars, pretty inexpensive to pick up and low miles. But in 2003, there was some electrical issues and some things that certainly can drive you nuts and cost you some money if you don't know what you're looking for. So, real quick, if you get some codes, shocks in op, there's one that's U1040 is a code. There's can't drive over 80 miles an hour. You get the little yellow traction light up on the dash. There's a couple different things you have to look at, and one of them is the brake control module. These things are problematic, and there's all kinds of videos about how to rebuild them and get them done. I actually had mine rebuilt, and it fixed my problems with the BCM. But I still get a code from time to time, and it's a communication fault with the TCS. And basically what it is, it's these wire connectors that are in the passenger and driver door. So the way this car was wired, everything comes through these door modules, and they're pretty easy to find and get to. And what you need to do is disconnect the battery. I didn't do that. I had a little spark. No damage done, but disconnect the battery, pull those connectors apart, and take a pair of needle nose pliers, or if you have the appropriate pin tool, you can put the pin tool in there and make sure they're all pulled in there tight, because they flex in that door all the time. And then sometimes these cars don't get driven that much. They sit there and they sit in one spot. If you open the door, it kind of pulls on them. So you pull all the pins, you make sure all the wires are good. Put some dielectric grease in there, put it back together, and that solved my issues with those little ghost codes for a while. The last few days I've been driving the car, and it's starting to rain. Been driving the car, and I started getting the codes again. So I thought it was the passenger side door, so I opened it and closed it a few times, wiggled the wires around, didn't make any changes. Doesn't do it every time, but what I noticed was it was hot, so I left the car door open whenever I was cranking the car up. And if I had the car door all the way open, the driver's door all the way open, the code wouldn't come on. If I shut the door and started the car, the code would come on. So pretty much tells me that connection in that door is probably got a loose connection in there, because it's just a fault code. It comes on for a second, and then it goes back off. It came on earlier today and did not go back off, which that worried me for a second. But I cut the car off, opened the door, cranked the car back up, didn't come on. So those little connectors can be an issue. You just have to open up the door. You can see a little rubber boot in there. Find the wires are inside of there. The connections are going to be inside the car. Probably not the ones in the door that you need to bother with. So that's one thing that can, if you get those codes to start up, shocks in up, that kind of thing, as long as no one has removed if you have ride control like I do, and you've got magnetic ride control shocks, as long as nobody's removed those and didn't put back ride control shocks, or you can trick the computer by putting a 3 ohm resistor in there, then that'll also make it do it. You won't be able to run over 80 miles an hour. So those are little problems. That brake control module up front, it looks like a little square. Like I said, go online and look that up. You'll find everything you need to know about that. I had mine rebuilt for $150, and it's been fine ever since. A couple other things I would say to do with your C5, if it's stock, it's never been messed with, and you get it, is what I did. There's all kinds of little modifications out there all over YouTube. And basically, I did the exhaust bypass. You can look that up. That's actually a nice little cheap thing to do. I paid somebody about $70 to put it on a rack so I could take the mufflers off for me. I took them to a friend, and he welded the bypass tubes in there, and it gives it just enough sound, no drone. It's not loud going down the road, but it sounds better than stock, and you really don't, if you don't know it, what you're looking for, you're not even going to know it's been modified. The other thing I did is I took the 185, 187 thermostat out, and I put a 160 thermostat in it. At the same time, I had the car dyno tuned. And the reason I did that, the dyno tune, I got about almost 30 horsepower, 28 or something like that. It's hard to, you have to go from wheel to crank, but I was able to get close to 30 horsepower, which that's cool. They got the car really running much better if you have a dyno tune. But the biggest thing is this car stock runs so hot. I mean, I'd be sitting in traffic and it would get up to 235 degrees, and that's just normal. 225 before the low-speed fans kick on, and then 235 before the high-speed fans kick on. Something like that. It's close to those temperatures. And for me, that's just way too hot. So I wanted the car to run a lot cooler. And so I changed the thermostat out, and I had a dyno tuned, and when he dyno tuned it, he made the fans come on at 205 low speed and 210 high speed. And the car doesn't get any hotter than 210 to somewhere around 210 anymore. So that was a good thing to have that done. And then the other thing, if you want to have it done while you're having a dyno tune, if the guy uses an HP tuner and he knows what he's doing, these cars, they have that first to fourth feature, first gear to fourth gear if you're less than 2,000 RPMs. And if you want to get rid of that, you can do that during the tune. You can just go in there and program it right out. So that was also done, and I like that. I didn't like having to worry about first to fourth, and so I'm having that done. The next thing I've got to do is I've got my magnetic ride shocks are leaking, and I'm going to put regular gas shocks back on the car. I'm not putting $700 a piece shocks back on this 17-year-old car. So to do that, there's a few ways. You can buy this kit. I think it's close to $200, and it basically plugs in to where the shock plugs in, and it has a resistor in it, and it tricks the computer. It tells the computer that, hey, I'm still here. You can do that. You can find somebody with a Tech 2 scanner and use a Tech 2 scanner to basically remove the function from the computer. Basically tell the computer that feature is not on the car anymore. It doesn't look for it, so it goes away. You can put whatever shock you want to on here. Another way to do it is if you just go order some 3-ohm resistors from Radio Shack online or any other electrical place. Those they're like a porcelain wire resistor. And you just wire those in where the plug would have plugged into the shock, and that tricks the computer, gives it the right amount of resistance to tell the computer that, hey, I still have a shock here. And then the other thing that I've seen I've only seen it on one video that I could find is you take the magnetic ride control shock off, and you remove the part that the wiring is plugged into, and you keep that basically zip tied up on the car up underneath there, and it still thinks that it's there, so it doesn't throw a code. So that's just a few ways that you can actually do that. other than that, you know, like I said, I drive the car. I bought the car to drive. I didn't buy it to be a garage queen. I really like driving a car, drive it to work all the time. I just drove it to softball. Been playing softball tournaments this weekend. So it's just a fun car to drive. And I can tell you that, you know, that dyno tune, I had mine dyno tuned with active handling off or in competitive driving mode. Because in regular driving, if you get in the rain or whatever, I didn't want to take all the engine retardation out and the traction control and remove all that while I was trying to maintain control of the car. So in order for me to get basically the full benefit of the dyno tune, I have to hit the active handling button and I have to turn active handling off, or I can hold the button down for 5 seconds and put it in competitive driving mode, which will give me rear tire, you know, I'm free to spin the tires or do whatever, but if I get sideways, it'll still actively try to correct the vehicle, but the tune that was put in will work through both of those scenarios. And I can tell you, whenever you put it in turn active handling off and you're getting in it, you can definitely tell a big difference in before the tune and after the tune. So and I mean, you can tell it anytime, but if you're, you know, getting in the pedal a little bit and you start, when active handling's on and you start spinning the tires, it's gonna you know, pull power from the engine to slow you down and try to keep the vehicle under control. So but anyway, I really enjoy the car. It's a convertible. You know, when I'm in Florida, so it's hot in the summertime. I don't drive it with the top down too much in the summertime, but in the fall and the winter, when it's nice outside, 70 something degrees, you know, all winter long, it's very nice to ride with the top down. And the other thing that I did is I did order and put in a Bluetooth system through the Bose, and I didn't want to install a whole new stereo system, because you can't really integrate anything with this Bose system and make it sound good. There's a lot of, I think, people that think that you can, but I talked to a lot of different folks, took it to a stereo shop, and really the only way to do it is take that thing out, like, you know, put new woofers in the doors and all that. I didn't want to spend that much money, but I wanted to listen to my own music, so I did put in Bluetooth. And I'm trying to I can't remember the name of the company that I bought the modules from, but the only thing I would do differently is when I bought this car, my CD player still worked, the one that's in the trunk, and I ordered the Bluetooth module. Got a little button up here, you can talk on your phone, which, although it's not great, and these cars are kind of, especially convertibles, kind of noisy, so it's kind of hard to talk when you go on highway speeds. But I can Bluetooth, I can, you know, listen to my own music. But I bought the one to use with the CD player. If you haven't owned this car very long and your CD player is working, I can promise you it ain't going to work very long if you live on anywhere near bumpy roads. And its CD player has to work in order for the Bluetooth to work. So I kept having problems with the CD player, so I just ended up ordering this other module, and it plugs in where the CD player plugs in and basically tells the car that, hey, my CD player is on and it's working. And then I just tossed the CD player in the garbage. I got rid of that, and that way I can play my own Bluetooth music. So anyway, fun car to drive. You know, I bought this car with 60-something thousand miles on it, and I've lowered it in the rear. That's the other thing I did. I did lower it just to match the front, because it was about a half an inch taller in the rear than it was in the front, just from how they set it up. So I did, you know, the factory leveling bolts, I lowered it down just to make it level, and, you know, measured all four corners of the car. So other than that, I just drive it, have a blast in it. You know, if you want a economical V8, you know, lightweight, high horsepower ratio car to have some fun in, I would certainly recommend a C5 Corvette. Mine's a stick. I wouldn't have it any other way. And under 20,000 bucks, man, you can have a low mileage, really nice sports car. Oh, one more thing. last thing, this video is getting long. The headlights. So these pop-up headlights are problematic. You can look it up all over the internet on how to replace the plastic gears with brass gears. But there's one more thing that I've only seen, I think, one other video on. The way these things work is a motor, and it turns a gear, you know, a kind of a gear mechanism, and then the actual parts that are used to extend and retract the headlights are kind of like pieces of metal on a scissor, you know. And when they get to the point where they need to stop, they hit a mechanical stop with a little rubber bushing, or a little rubber, like a little rubber pad on it. And if that pad is worn and it or gone or missing, when it scissors open, it goes too far, it gets stuck and it won't open back up. So like right now, if I turn on my headlights, I probably will only get one headlight to open. Let me see. Yep, driver's side headlight. The other one, I haven't messed with the pads. I fixed the one on the driver's side. If I can go out there and there's a manual screw on the back of that motor, you just turn it just a half a turn because it's overextended and it'll pop right up. So just something else to think about. It's not always that gear. Sometimes it's those pads that's on that scissor mechanism. You have to take a look at it and see how it works. But little things like that are just annoying, but you can fix them yourself. Anyway, I hope some of this was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a message through YouTube. I've talked to several people about the Suzuki problems I was having my boat motor, and you can work a lot of stuff out on YouTube. If you got questions, feel free to send me a message. I'll be glad to help you. Thanks, and thanks for watching Salty Flag TV. Have a good one.